ちに向けろ。さすがにカメラの前で女を殴るのはまずいからな。
脱いだからいいだろう。許してくれ。好きな人を守ることができない。バイバイ、朝宮。
In a world where views and likes rule the world, everybody tries to become a famous YouTuber. One of these famous YouTubers in particular makes his money by bullying and abusing ugly students within his class. He makes tons of money off of this and gets loads of babes, but what happens when the ugly loser starts his own account? Running his YouTube stream is a man named Pago, whose ugly looks aren't the only things going for him. He also decides to introduce the school thought, Rumi, to his live stream, knowing it's all horny young boys watching. By introducing her as a beauty YouTuber, she takes the lead for showcasing a loser boy with terrible makeup. Everyone tuning into the stream makes fun of him, while all of the other students watch. This ugly boy is Hobin, a young rascal who gets absolutely no girls. Pago orders him to smile for the camera, unknowing that he has crooked teeth. After the stream is over, he tries to go wash the paint off, but is unable to, making him have to deal with his ugly face all day. He looks into the mirror, thinking it's the paint making him ugly, not knowing that it's just him. He then heads back to class after washing most of it off, but is assaulted once again. A blonde man named Snapper starts beating up on him for looking so ugly, claiming if he was better looking he would get more views. As he gets beat, he eventually stands up against him, giving him a dirty look, thus stopping Snapper's advances. Our protagonist, Hobin, reveals that in reality Snapper is a big wuss, stopping his attacks whenever he gives him that glare. He then overhears the school thought talking with Pago about their earnings, learning she made 3,000 yen. When he hears this, he considers making his own channel, but stops when he overhears Snapper getting the same idea. Pago tells him if he wants to make an account, he needs an adult bank account. Snapper reveals his parents are all dead, so he can't do that, so he gets another idea. He approaches Hobin and asks him if he can use his mother's bank account. Pago overhears this and starts laughing at him for how dumb a question that is. Hobin, on the other hand, follows suit and ends up giving Snapper his sick mum's bank details. With her being bedridden for the past few years, he has no family at home. While talking with her, she notices his beat face, so she asks if he got in a fight again, but Hobin plays it off. Once he leaves, he has to pay 3,000 yen for her medical bills, revealing that was his monthly paycheck from his minimum wage job. While working, he gets frustrated from making so little and being pathetic. As he thinks his life is over the McDonald's idol, Bomi emerges asking him where the burgers are at. Embarrassed by just being talked to by her, he tells her where they are at. Once he does, the other workers try to guide her there as if she doesn't work there every day. She then goes back to working the front counter, making you wonder why she even needed to know where the patties are. As he lives that small moment of talking to his idol, his lifetime enemy Pago enters the store, claiming he is here to interview Bomi. He instantly starts spitting some game on her, telling her if she can't make a specific burger in 30 seconds, she has to give him her number. He continues his advances on her, giving her an ugly face, making her cringe. While this happens, the other random workers talk amongst themselves, thinking it's over for her. Just before the time runs out, however, Hobin emerges with the burger fully cooked. He tells Pago to leave now, acting like a boss. He claims to be the king of McDonald's, being proud of cooking the burger so fast. Later that night, when he goes home, he finds Snapper inside of his home, using his computer to live stream. Despite just starting his channel, he somehow is already getting large donations, angering Hobin. Because of this, he decides to spit in Snapper's food, but as he goes to deliver it, he trips on the cord. This turns the monitor off, and in the process, he drops all of the hot food onto Snapper's face. He tries to apologize, but Snapper doesn't let it slide, beating him up for doing such a thing. As he gets beat up, Hobin realizes that this is his own home, so he starts fighting back. He starts by slapping him in the face with spaghetti, and this leads to an all-out brawl between the two. With both sides using whatever is at their disposal, we pan to the camera, which is still running. During their fight, various people watch this go down, finally seeing something interesting. Following this, Hobin lies in his destroyed room, wishing that he could just live in peace. As he sleeps, he eventually turns the power cord off, needing to save electricity. In the morning, he wakes up to Snapper spam calling him. He demands that he delete the video, explaining their fight was recorded. This makes Hobin realize that he didn't unplug the computer, but rather just the monitor, meaning the whole fight was recorded and uploaded. Hastily, Hobin rushes to the computer to delete the video, but he soon learns that it has millions of views with over 10000 comments. He thinks his life is over with this, realizing not only is he being bullied in real life, but also online. As he goes to delete it, however, he sees comments talking about how much money he must have made on this video. When he counts up the amount of views in comparison to money per view, he realizes he has amassed over 1 million yen. The next day at school, instead of Hobin being the center of the bullying, it is now Snapper. To save face, Snapper tries to pick on the weakest link in the class, some fat nerd, but the opposite happens. He gets beat to a pulp, and Pago does nothing but watch. With this, he became the new laughingstock of the school, ruining his life. Hobin, on the other hand, goes to pay his hospital bill and thinks that it's no big deal this time with so many views. He looks at the views and keeps racking up, but as he does, Snapper emerges, punching him in the face. He demands to get half of the profit, but Hobin fights back, socking him in the nuts. This leads to a huge fight within the block, gaining loads of attention. As the fight goes on, Hobin starts to realize fighting isn't that bad. Following these events, they sit down to talk it out, where Snapper reveals he recorded the entire event. He tells him that with his filming skills he can do whatever he wants. Hobin thinks that he plans on blackmailing him, but Snapper has another plan. He tells him that he will help him make tons of money acting as his producer. He informs him that the only reason Pago got so famous was because of him. Snapper then tells him of all the various aspects that go into being a YouTuber, showing he thinks he has no chance at making it. He proposes that he become Hobin's producer so that they can make tons of money together. The thought of all this money excites Hobin, so he considers his offer until he hears Snapper's demands. He tells Hobin that he will get 90% of the profit while he gets only 10%. Right before he shakes his hand, however, Hobin gives him the finger, asking where he thought he could get off demanding 90%. Snapper then negotiates lower and lower until he eventually decides on giving Hobin 90% and him taking 10%. With this being said, Hobin decides to hear him out, asking what his plan to become famous is. Snapper tells him that they should continue with their fighting, but with a bit of a twist. He suggests they confront bullies and beat them up to act like a hero. The next day at school, Pago makes sure to take advantage of their fame, calling them the Bullied boys. He makes them look like losers for his camera, while making sure to scam them. He tells his viewers that he will give a giveaway for one lucky viewer, but Hobin stops him, informing them he is a liar. He continues by showing his bruises, completely exposing Pago. He continues to expose him, drawing the attention of tons of various people, hoping he will anger him. Pago then shows him his phone is turned off, revealing he ended the stream long ago. He then begins beating up on Hobin, not knowing this is all being streamed from Snapper's perspective. With front row seats to this fight, he plans on stealing all of Pago's viewers, knowing this will draw loads of attention. As Hobin begins to get beat up, he wonders if what he is doing is really right. He knows this is a scummy way of making money, but eventually knows if he doesn't stand up to this bully, things will never get better for him. He raises his fists in hopes of fighting back, thus inciting Pago to step his game up. As it goes on, people think that Hobin is brave for standing up to him, not knowing that in reality he is scared to the bone. He looks at Pago's muscular body filled with tattoos and wonders if he even has a chance. Hobin considers apologizing, but when Pago starts roasting his ill mom, it pushes him over the edge. He finally starts fighting back, grabbing Pago's leg, but it does absolutely nothing. He then picks him up whole and slams him into the ground, showing he isn't messing around. As Hobin continues to get beat up, he realizes that his fights against Snapper were just child's play. Eventually someone speaks up, it being some bum lying idly in the corner. He tells Pago to stop his shouting, revealing he is an MMA fighter Kim. Pago instantly cowers down, telling not only Pago but also Hobin to watch their tone around him. Hobin sees all of this, and wonders if he has a chance at becoming someone like him as well. With this event taking place, Pago leaves the room thinking he is the victor. Later that night, when Pago goes to turn his phone on, he is stunned to see tons of messages ridiculing him. He sees the video of him beating up on Hobin and becomes enraged. Hobin, on the other hand, thinks what he is doing is for justice, when in reality he is just greedy. With Pago already being pretty famous, this video ended up trending on YouTube. Pago's image gradually went downhill while Hobin soared like never before. Now that he has made it this far, he knows there is no turning back. The only issue is he doesn't know any other bullies to fight against. Because of this, he meets up with Snapper to discuss their plans. He informs him that if he ever wants to make money, then his fights need to be longer so they can put more ads in them. This leads him down a rabbit hole of figuring out how to become better at fighting so he doesn't lose so fast. After a ton of searching, he eventually stumbles upon a YouTube channel with videos explaining how to fight. With this channel not having a single subscriber, he wonders if it will really help him, but as he watches, he gradually learns more and more. The Chicken Man teaches him valuable rules to fighting, including to never get worked up. He explains that whoever lets their emotions get control of them first will be the loser in a battle. He then talks about fighting methods in detail, making Hobbin question its authenticity. Despite this, he ends up watching the entire video. The following day, he heads to his McDonald's job and tells the manager he is quitting. Bomi learns of this and ends up becoming sad, showing she has hidden feelings for him. She decides to tell him this, going out before he leaves and offering her contact information to him. The next day at school, Hobbin texts during class, wishing he will get in good with the baddie. As he texts her, Snapper suddenly emerges and reveals Hobbin has already amassed over 100,000 followers. With this being said, he still needs a plan to make more videos, so he asks him what his plan is to make the fights longer. Hobbin informs him he watched some Chicken Man, but he is soon interrupted by the school thought. She asks Hobbin to do a stream with him, offering her body in exchange for it. This offer intrigues Hobbin, but he eventually stops when Pago enters the room. He tells Hobbin that because he ruined his channel, he plans on making his school life worse than ever. He charges Hobbin and strikes, but somehow he ends up evading the attack. Filled with anger, Pago continues his attacks, showing no mercy. As this goes on, Snapper makes sure to record it, forcing Pago to stop in his place. Now with him being recorded as a bully twice, he is forced to stop, telling Hobbin he better not see that video uploaded. Pago then leaves, making Hobbin realize that the Chicken Man's video wasn't just a facade. Later that day, he is seen waiting around in a city centre for Snapper. As he waits, he decides to text the McDonald's girl, hoping to one day secure a date. Before he does, however, she proposes it first, hoping to talk on the phone first. While he texts her, some thug walks up on him, claiming they are big fans of his. They try to get on well with him, sucking up to him in the process. This makes Hobbin realize what power he holds, but soon after this, the man who he thought was a fan starts to rob him. As this happens, Snapper runs up on him but gets knocked down in an instant. The thug decides to take it up a step, stealing Hobbin's phone to show he means business. As he walks away, however, Hobbin tries to stop him, not wanting to lose his contact with the McDonald's girl. Little does he know Snapper has been recording this entire thing, urging him to go fight the thug. Once Hobbin hears this and thinks about all the money he could make, he wastes no time starting his fighting stream. He starts by approaching the thug within a karaoke room, confronting him for his phone. With this man being stubborn, he asks Hobbin if he wants to throw down, showing he has no intentions of backing down. Hobbin doesn't either, however, facing off against him despite their difference in size. When the thug hits for the first time rather than backing down, Hobbin tanks the hit entirely. This stuns the others, making them wonder why Hobbin would move into the hit rather than dodge it. Hobbin, on the other hand, reveals that the Chicken Man told him this technique, calling it the coward's dodge. The thug then moves in for another hit, but this time rather than take it head on, he dodges it entirely. By weaving side to side, he makes the thug miss his hit, thus forcing him to continue. As he throws punches, Hobbin keeps dodging, making the thug look like an idiot. Hobbin tells him again to give his phone back, but the thug doesn't back down. Instead, he is left wondering why Hobbin keeps tanking his hits, making him question his own strength. Hobbin, however, only watched this video, making him completely unsure on how to fight back. With neither side really taking the advantage, Snapper wonders if he should make a move to incite it. As he thinks of this, people start talking in the comments saying that Hobbin will end up winning. Others say he is crazy, but little do they know the man talking behind the comments is the MMA pro. He tells everyone to look at the thug's fists, revealing from him throwing all of these punches, his fists are bruised. Once the adrenaline dies down, the thug starts to feel the pain, but at the same time Hobbin feels it as well. Although this seems like a bit of a failure of a fight to Hobbin, he is happy to have gotten his phone back. Including this video, they have amassed over 1 million views in their first week. In total, they have gotten 25 million views, thus giving them a little over 2 million yen. Although he has all this money in front of him, Hobbin is still unimpressed by it, telling Snapper he thought he would get more out of it. Snapper explains that although it's usually 1 yen per view, a majority of the time, people get paid lower. He tells him that they are lucky to even get a penny, informing him that because of their type of content, there is a high chance of getting demonetized. As they talk, they see the school-thought roomie standing outside, so they watch her. Once she notices them, she instantly runs after them, hoping to milk their publicity for some change, but they don't let her. They run away and end up standing outside of some store. Hobbin sees a tracksuit that he falls in love with, but upon reading the price, he is stunned. With this tracksuit costing 140,000 yen, he considers it impossible to ever afford. Little does he know Snapper has the same thought he has, going into the store and buying it without a second thought. Once he sees this, he realizes even if he has all of this money, if he doesn't save it, he will never be rich. He then gets a text from someone and ends up buying the tracksuit anyways, making you wonder what he is up to. As he waits, he decides to pull out his tripod, attracting tons of attention from those around him. Some people talk trash about him while others run up on him asking for a picture. Or so he thought, but standing behind him is some handsome man overlooking Hobin. The girls take pictures with the man, but he runs off when he notices a hot girl. He tries to spit some game on her, but she ignores him, approaching Hobin instead. She tells him his tracksuit looks good on him, showing she is wearing the same one despite working at McDonald's. With Bomi in front of him, it makes him remember his past, always being picked on by others. He had always wanted to be someone like Popko, an alpha among alphas. But even Hobin knew there were bigger fish in the pond, someone like Munseong, the pro MMA fighter. With him previously feeling that way now, he feels like a boss having the babe Bomi at his disposal. He walks with her to their next location, and completely forgets about the live stream, making us wonder why he even pulled it out in the first place. While he walks, he imagines their future together, coming home to a loving wife like Bomi. He imagines himself giving her flowers and having tons of children with her. Then suddenly he wakes up from this dream when Bomi asks him why he is spacing out. He plays it off as being a man of few words, knowing if he acts dumb she won't like him anymore. As he orders this meal, he gets roasted by some onlookers, wondering how an ugly guy like Hobin could ever be with someone like Bomi. Once he overhears them commenting about him matching her, he takes the tracksuit off, showing he is still not confident in himself. He continues on his date regardless, starting to lose interest in Bomi because of how unconfident he is. She notices this and tells him that he is being way too dry around her, leaving in the process. While she walks out, he asks her if she is embarrassed to be around her, informing her he has never had a girl before. He tells her his hobbies and interests, revealing everything there is about him. With every word coming out diminishing himself, he looks more and more like a loser, all the while complimenting Bomi. This only draws Herein more, finally realizing there is more to Hobin than just some loser. Eventually, after this date, Bomi gets a call from someone telling her he is in town. Bomi decides to invite them to join them, thinking everything will be alright. Before he arrives, Hobin asks who her friend is, hoping it's another girl, but to his surprise, it's Munseong. This makes him feel like a loser again, recognizing him as a man with everything. He thinks of his future with Munseong in his life, imagining that Bomi would rather marry him over Hobin. This makes him feel like a loser again, trying to hide his thoughts from Bomi. He lies to her and tells her they are friends, but right after he says this, Munseong emerges before him. He also happens to be wearing the tracksuit, making all three of them matching together. With Bomi standing by the side of Munseong, he wonders how he will get him out of this situation, claiming to be friends with him. He assumes that Munseong will ruin his moment with Hobin, but to his surprise he plays it cool. He tells her that they are friends in the same class, stunning Hobin. Hobin questions how someone who doesn't even know his name could defend him in front of a baddie like Bomi. Munseong then notices they are all wearing the same fit, so he compliments Hobin. With the tension cleared up, the three walk through town, making Hobin wonder who looks better with Bomi. He considers himself the third wheel, even though he has been on a date with her all day. Knowing this, he decides to leave them be, still thinking he has no chance getting with Bomi. As he walks away, Bomi acts sad, wishing he hadn't left. Once Hobin gets away, he finds Snapper recording him, wishing he would have fought against Munseong for the chick. Hobin, however, knows that there would be no fight against him, it being an all-out beating. Snapper then informs him that if he doesn't fight for his girl, then he will never truly win her over. This makes Hobin realize he just needs to grow some balls rather than acting like a coward. Snapper tells him if you give up before the game, then there is no chance to win in the first place. He asks him who just bawled Bomi out all day, making him realize she doesn't just think of him as a friend. With this in mind, Hobin finally gains the courage to stand up against Munseong, even though he probably has no ill intentions. As he walks away, Snapper thinks to himself, what an idiot. He knows that Hobin will get demolished in a fight, so he follows behind, hoping it will make some good content. Hobin, on the other hand, approaches the two and realizes nothing is going on between the two. Munseong leaves before he even raises a fist, making him wonder why he was tweaking out. As Munseong leaves, he tells Hobin that he has seen his videos, informing him he is getting much better at fighting. He tells him that he knows he purposely let the opponent beat up on him, making Hobin clueless to what he's talking about. Hobin then goes and sits down with Bomi to talk things out, where he hopes to get a confession out. As he tries to spill it out, he rubs his legs in a panic, hoping to hide his boner. Instead of confessing, he decides to ask her for what her type is in girls. She tells him she loves an honest guy, so he tries to confess to her but stops upon realizing he has someone following closely behind him. He sees Snapper, and when he looks back he finds not only him but also Pago with anger-filled eyes. Hobin steps up to the plate and tells Bomi to leave, but Pago has no intentions of doing so. He remembers her from the McDonald's, so he calls her a thought for ignoring him. This angers Hobin, so he starts roasting Paco, knowing whoever is the angriest loses. These actions cause Pago to strike him, but he knows if he runs into the hit, nothing will happen. Paco, however, has seen his videos, so he knows what he plans on doing, striking him in the jaw. This makes Hobin wonder if he is done for, thinking about what he could possibly do. He thinks back on all the times he would be beat up in his past, and how he learned the secret techniques from the Chicken Man. With all of this in mind, he tells himself nothing mattered, as long as the money was flowing in. He then acquired a baddie by his side, making him become overconfident. He tells himself this is his punishment for succeeding too much, blaming it on his own actions. Hobin thinks that eventually Paco will stop hitting him, but he continues to strike, showing no mercy. As he gets struck, he begs for them to release Bomi, telling him he will let him beat him all he wants in exchange for that. With nothing working, he eventually decides to stoop as low as he can, bowing down. Pago isn't satisfied, however, telling him to take his pants off for the camera. He shows him that Snapper is behind them, recording the entire interaction. Pago then tells him again to take his pants off, but before he can, Bomi moves in to slap him in the face. Once this happens, Pago urges Snapper to divert the camera so he can smack Bomi back without being on camera. As this happens, however, Hobin strips down to the bone, begging for forgiveness. To finish up these actions, Hobin takes off his underwear as well, showing he is serious about this. Right before he does, however, Munseong emerges, pulling his underwear back up. He approaches the bullies and knocks some sense into them, showing there is always someone stronger than yourself. After displaying all of these moves, he asks Bomi if she is alright. He ignores Hobin, leaving him to figure things out himself, all the while stealing the girl. Some other girl watches all of this play out and is brought to tears. The next day at school, Hobin wonders when everything went wrong. He thinks back on all the times he was bullied and struggled to make friends. With him being picked on for no reason, he began hating school, wishing he never was even born. He eventually got too scared to look people in the eye, causing everyone to prey on him. This cycle repeated until the one day when Hobin finally retaliated and stood his ground. Now in the present, Hobin feels right back at where he once was, thinking he lost it all. Because of this, he is brought to tears while Pago regains his fame. Now, instead of acting like a good guy, he openly bullies people, forcing Snapper to be his plaything now. Snapper only wishes to apologize, knowing things must be going bad for Hobin. Even Bomi is unable to reach Hobin, he just wants to disappear. While everyone thought he gave up on life, in reality Hobin decided to change. He watched every video there is to offer by the Chicken Man and trained day in and day out. He fueled himself with rage, knowing just training won't be enough. After a month's time, Hobin finally reappeared at school, this time not acting like such a baby. With his phone in hand, recording the entire interaction, he urges Snapper to record what's about to go down. He then approaches Paco and orders Snapper to film this. To show he isn't messing around, Hobin stands face to face against Pago, telling him this stream is called How to Beat Someone Stronger Than Yourself. Thanks to her efforts, Rumi has apparently hit 100k subscribers. Although she is excelling in her ventures, Hobin has still not returned to the school. Snapper talks with Rumi about this, and asks her if she needs a producer. Pago overhears this, so he runs up on him, asking why he split off from him, thinking they were best friends. Snapper tries to make an excuse, but this only angers Paco more, so he beats him up. He asks him if he is ashamed of himself for sucking up to everybody he meets, causing others to look down on him as well. Right when he thought he had it going good, the times flipped, and now Paco has over 900k subscribers. While he is rising, Hobin's channel is on the decline, getting various harmful comments. He blames their downfall on Pago, as if he didn't gain his fame from him in the first place. Pago then approaches Snapper and tells him to bring Hobin to school tomorrow, in exchange for him allowing him to be his cameraman. With Snapper being a scumbag, he decides to follow his orders, knowing there is no other way to regain his fame. He approaches Hobin's mum in the hospital, demanding that she reveal where their house is. He tells her that he isn't going to school, so he wants to help him get back on his feet. For some reason, she doesn't suspect anything and just writes down their address, giving Snapper some hope to hold on to. Despite getting this address, he never ended up bringing Hobin to school, causing him to get beat up the next day. This angers him, so he beats Snapper up, claiming that he's a liar. He then records him on live, telling him to send a message to Hobin. Despite getting beat up, Snapper refuses to do as he says, telling the live show that Hobin should stay and hope to prevent getting beat like he is. As you can expect, he gets beat up for this, causing him to be in more agony. Before this happened, his mom showed kindness to Snapper, thanking him for being his first friend. This makes him realize that he can't sacrifice his pride for a little bit of change. He hopes that one day Hobin will come back to school, dealing with getting beat up on the daily. One day when this happens per usual, Hobin watches from his phone, finally heading to school. This time, instead of acting like a coward to Pago, he approaches him head on. He throws his phone to Snapper and informs him to record this beatdown. Now, with his resolve steeled, he approaches Pago and tells him that it's time for a new live, where he beats down someone bigger than himself. Everyone thinks that Hobin is making a mistake for these advances, but Hobin has some kind of plan. Pago doesn't know this, however, so he smacks Hobin in the head, but he deals with the hit head on. He then starts weaving from side to side using the same moves as he always has. Pago thinks this will be an easy fight, but Hobin has watched more of the Chicken Man's videos, so he knows what to do. With the Chicken Man telling him how to avoid uppercuts, he is confident that he can face him head on this time. While he was skipping school, he also wondered if he could make a comeback during his channel. He knew if he stopped, then his mum would suffer, and he would be unable to pay the bills. During this month off from school, he spent the entire time learning the basics and training his own body. He started with increasing his body weight, placing tons of ingredients into a chug jug and chugging it whole. With lots of protein flowing through his body, he threw it all up unexpectedly. He wondered why the Chicken Man told him to make shakes like this, but soon realized he just followed the guidance wrong. Despite this, he continued drinking the shake and working out with laundry detergent. He knew that he was wasting money on all the meat he put in, so he tried other methods. He decided to start swimming to increase his stamina, thinking that if he swims his heart out on a daily basis, he will see some kind of change. With him going to a local gym containing tons of locals, he was frowned upon, wondering what's wrong with this kid. At the end of this training regiment, the Chicken Man told him it would take more than a month to properly get strong. Because of this, he teaches an ultimate method to Hobin, giving him hope to defeat the strong. Apparently the secret isn't in boxing or judo, but rather one specific skill unknown to many. First he needs to get into a boxing stance, then he needs to get into the perfect form. With it being a low kick, Hobin now uses it in battle against Pago. During this month all he practiced was a low kick, getting it stronger than any other method he learned. After he deals this hit, he thinks that he will take Pago down, but he stays standing. Pago tells him that he should have aimed higher, telling him his efforts were in vain. Everyone thinks that he messed up, while Munseong knows that this attack wasn't in vain. With it hitting Pago's calf, his leg is severely injured, causing him to stop mid-fight. Munseong realizes this and decides to subscribe to his channel, seeing that he is the real deal. Although he was able to land this hit and injure Pago, he isn't a kid, so he can withstand the hit. He chases after Hobin to take him down, but Hobin only takes advantage of his advances. As he gets chased, he sends in another low kick, making Munseong wonder when he will use the next attack. To his surprise, however, Hobin continues to just do a low kick, causing Pago to eventually adapt to it. Although he only has the one attack, he continues to use the low kick, making Pago think that's his only move. Then suddenly Hobin sends in a hook to the face, knocking Pago off his feet into the lockers. This move stuns everybody, wondering how someone like Hobin could possibly take down a beast like Pago. Following this hit, the other thugs that follow Pago run up on him, hoping to get revenge. Before they can, Snapper runs in the middle of them, and vows to protect Hobin to preserve the channel. With his claims, the thugs back down, instantly making Snapper think that he has some sort of power. In reality, Munseong is standing behind them, exerting his presence on the others. He then approaches Hobin and informs him that his efforts weren't in vain, telling him he has gotten much stronger. Hobin then begs the viewers to subscribe and turn on the bell for him, wishing he could regain his previous fame. Although Hobin achieved this feat, he still knows that this won't be the end, calling his hit a lucky hit. With him overpowering Pago, Hobin ends up reaching 150k subs. On top of his recent increase in fame, he is able to buy his mother a new outfit, making her wonder how he is making all this money. She then tells him that the other day Snapper came by and asked to check up on him. Hobin tells her that it must have been Munseong that came to his help, causing Snapper to get saddened. When he walks out of the room, he finds Snapper yelling out to him, reminding him of all the pain he went through for his gain. After nailing Pago in the head with his overhand hook, Hobin wonders if his life will really start to change for the better. Although this may be the case, when he speaks with Snapper, he realizes they need a better editor. Snapper informs him that if they had a good editor, then they would easily have more views to make the clips look better. With no other ideas, Snapper decides to ask their fans for an editor, allowing the fans to compete for the spot. Hobin tells them that although he doesn't expect much, he thinks there might be someone good within the comments. As he talks, various people start submitting applications, including one man who goes by the name of Ding. With him being a famous editor, they wonder if he is the right choice, so they decide to meet him. Snapper is hesitant at first with him being a middle-aged man, but he eventually folds under the pressure and schedules an interview. Later that week at school, Hobin tells Snapper that there is one issue. He's a bit weird. With him being an old guy that is also a weirdo, they get scared, wondering if he is going to be weird to them. Then suddenly a hot babe enters the class and tells them she is a middle-aged man. With her just speaking like one but actually being a babe, the boys think this is the perfect person to hire. Right when she walks in, various students comment on how cute she is, but talks like an old man, so nobody hits on her. She then approaches the two and asks them to get started with the interview, so Snapper begins laughing at the way she talks. He points at her like a fool, but she grabs his hand, making him imagine if he was married to her. He plans on bringing her flowers every day to his home from work, hoping to get some special service later that night. While he flirts with his wife, the dog wakes him up, who in reality is Hobin, forcing him to get back to business. They then start talking with her, asking if she has any past edits she could show. Following this, she presents them with an intro, making Snapper think she is the perfect choice. He decides automatically that she is good, but Hobin reminds him that he is the boss here. He checks out the comments on their videos and various editing techniques she has to make sure she is the real deal. Although she is good at a few things, he notices that there are various other parts that are wrong. He tells her this, so she whips out the photo of him getting undressed on live, showing despite him not taking his pants off, he still showed some hair. He then asks her why she picked him in the first place, so she informs him of the first time she saw him fight. Ever since that day, she had been starstruck by their idea to fight, making her want a piece of it. With this being said, she is accepted into the group as their editor, so they decide to post it on their channel. Bomi sees all of this on his channel and wishes he would still talk to her. Later that evening, while walking around, Bomi notices a bunch of people standing around someone. She sees a high school kid fighting various thugs to play the game. That is until another thug approaches him, demanding he get up to let him play the game. The man obviously refuses, so the high school beats him up, forcing him to obey him. This man is named Tae-hun, a new fighter within the MMA who would be higher ranked if he wasn't such a scumbag. Because of this, Snapper informs Hobin of this all, asking him if he thinks he could take him. Hobin says there is no way, so he asks why he's even asking him in the first place. Snapper tells him that he uses taekwondo to fight, so he thinks he is weak, making him a perfect fight for Hobin. On top of him being a famous fighter, Snapper reveals that he is a bully who has been known for beating up random people if they mess with him. As they talk to Gael, the new editor approaches, telling them that just because he uses taekwondo doesn't mean he is weak. She informs them of a test that was used to check the maximum speed and power of each fighting technique. With some having higher speed and others higher power, the king of them all happened to be taekwondo. Upon hearing this, Hobin asks him what this all has to do with him, thinking him saying he should fight him was just a joke. Snapper then shows he is serious about this, claiming if he beats him up he will surely gain a ton of fame. They then talk about taekwondo from a world champion's perspective, who claims that it's the best technique to study. With there only being one real move, a back kick, nobody is able to get in close or even lay a hit on them. Upon hearing all of this, Hobin checks out his videos and realizes that this isn't just some bully, but rather a real-life pro. However, despite him knowing this, he decides to watch the Chicken Man for more tips to hopefully gain more skills. Meanwhile, Tae-hun is seen sitting around in his classroom, reigning above everybody else. He would approach students and make them lick his shoes clean, showing he always got what he wanted. With him being the common thug, it makes you wonder why he was blessed with being such a good fighter. Now, with the students not wanting to lick his shoes clean, one of the scrawny boys decides to offer up his own shoes with hopes of saving his friend. Hobin, on the other hand, decides to stream him crying on camera, claiming there is no way for him to defeat that fighter. Snapper gets mad at him for these advances, reminding him he made a promise to the viewers to fight whoever is the biggest bully. Later that evening, while Tae-hun is on the way home, he gets approached by a few thugs. They ask him why he hit their friends, but because he finishes fighting, he strikes one of the thugs. He tells him that he wants 100 yen to go play games, but this only incites the bigger man even more. He tells him that he is a fake, claiming taekwondo is a fake technique, so he rushes him. As he does, Tae-hun dodges around him and kicks him back, which is followed by a kick to the head. He continues his attacks until the man is beaten to a pulp and forced to cough up 100 yen. Tae-hun tells the already injured man to give him money, or he will beat his friend up more. The guy rumbles through his pockets, but this doesn't stop Tae-hun as he continues to beat up on the biggest thug, demanding 1 million yen this time. While all of this happens, Snapper is down the street recording it, hoping to show Hobin to get some info on their next fight. As he watches, he realizes how crazy this man is, so he reconsiders making Hobin fight him. Regardless, he brings the footage to him, hoping he can beat him later that day. Then suddenly Taehun appears before them, asking what their deal is. Snapper informs him that he has good fighting skills, so he wanted to study it. With Taehun's presence glaring on them, Gael assumes they are already being fought, so she runs in, declaring she will take him down. Once she sees who is the opponent, she kicks a rock and backs down. Now with this being done, Taehun asks them why he wanted to film them. Hobin tells him he will delete it and leave, but Taehun stops them, revealing he knows who he is. With this being said, he demands from Hobin to hand over his YouTube account, thinking he will get lots of money if he does. Hobin hesitates at first, so Taehun kicks Snapper in the stomach, knocking him out for the count. With no other option, Hobin considers fighting him, but is still scared by the very thought of his presence. After getting confronted by the bully, Hobin wonders if he should fight back or what he should even try to do. With him thinking he is still some weakling, he knows there is no chance he can stand against an MMA fighter. He tells Seong that they should just talk it out, but he raises his leg in preparation to strike. Hobin doesn't let this slide, however, preparing his fist and attempting to strike. He goes through his various techniques, but realizes that there is no chance for him winning. He tells him that he can have his channel, but after saying this, the others question what he has been fighting for. Despite agreeing to give him the channel, Seong still slaps him, enraging Hobin. This makes Hobin realize that he needs to stay cool during this moment, staring at him menacingly. After these events, he takes Snapper to the hospital and asks him if he is mad at him. He assures himself that he made the right decision, claiming that he prevented them from getting hurt further. Upon hearing this, Snapper asks him if he is really alright with giving up his channel. He explains that when he beat Pago, he got inspired, but now he is looking like a coward. He asks Hobin if he has any pride, but he reminds him that there is no way he would have won. He claims that even if he tried his hardest, there is no way that he could defeat a pro fighter. After saying all of this, he reminds him that he gets scared as well, leaving without a second thought. As he does, Gael walks inside, wishing Hobin to stay safe as he leaves. The two then begin talking about their future plans with Snapper, still thinking they can run their channel. He claims that they will make a comeback, asking her to leave him in the process. He says he needs some alone time to think of their plans, hiding his true feelings. After she leaves, he wishes that he could know how to fight, thinking she hates him now. Hobin, on the other hand, decides to wait outside of the room, wondering what to do. Eventually, he comes to the conclusion that the only way he can regain his pride is to become stronger. Meanwhile, Seong is seen playing in the arcade as usual. As he plays, Hobin enters as well, and asks to take the place of someone else's game machine. Once he starts playing, he defeats Seong with ease, making him engaged. Hobin then tells him that his fighting style is nothing special, making him even more angry. He asks Hobin what he is doing here, so he explains that he is here to give him his channel. Seong tries to take his phone, but Hobin informs him that if he wants it, then he needs to take it away from him. He claims that he can have his subscribers and fans, but he can't take his pride. This angers Seong, so he pushes Hobin into the game and smashes it behind him, showing he means business. He tells Hobin to schedule a time to fight against him, leaving in the process. This causes Hobin to pay for the repairs of the machine, making the others engaged when they hear what he did. Snapper questions why he did all of this, thinking he didn't want to get hurt. Hobin, however, knows the feeling that Snapper had. With him previously being at his lowest of lows, he declares that he will take fighting seriously from now on. He goes home and instantly begins training while watching the Chicken Man's videos. With him pushing himself beyond belief, he thinks that he will have a chance at taking him down. After a lot of watching, he finally makes it to Lesson 2, where it gives the details on how to beat a Taekwondo user. The Chicken Man instantly informs him that it's impossible to beat someone, but giving up isn't an option. With death awaiting anyone who tries to fight against them, he assures Hobin there is no way for him to win. He claims that there is no possible way for a non-fighter to win against someone using that technique. Despite saying this, he raises the question of what could be done in an all-out brawl where technique doesn't matter. He informs Hobin that all he needs to do is control the environment to make it impossible for them to throw kicks. Upon hearing this, Hobin realizes that he does in fact have a chance, him just needing to figure out how to limit Seong's kicks. With him in charge of selecting the date and time for their fight, he realizes he just needs to pick a rainy day. He then practices his calf kicks once again, thinking if he takes out his legs, then Seong will be immobile. He also practices by swimming to build stamina, which is followed by sitting in the sauna. Even after hearing all of this, the chicken man informs him that he only has a 5% chance of winning. Despite this, he knows a move to raise it up to 40%, showing a new move. He tackles the sandbag and destroys it instantly, claiming that if he takes him down, then he can raise his chances to win. Although this may be the case, he needs to practice it from scratch. To hasten the results, he goes next to a water pump and takes on the pressure. He then stands under a shower to harden his muscles where a kid notices how small he is. Following these events, Snapper enters his room to check up on him, but he is nowhere to be seen. After a bit of investigating, he finds him hanging on his closet hanger looking like a creep. He asks Snapper why he is here, to which he explains that he came to record it all, thinking he might have a chance. As they talk, Hobin reveals that he did another training method in order to increase his chances to 50%. He uses a bag of trash to work out, making everyone tuning into his training stream wonder if he is crazy. Guile, however, knows he is trying his best, so she helps him with his training. She stomps on him repeatedly, thus strengthening his core muscles. After a few more days, the time arrives for Hobin to finally face off against Seong. He wonders if his training will pay off or not, him taking all of the precautions to win. With today being a day that it happens to be raining, he prays to the gods after seeing it not as cloudy as he thought. Then suddenly the clouds all disperse, making Hobin think that he has no chance at victory whatsoever. He knows without rain there is no chance he can win, so he wonders if he should just put off the fight. He thinks of all the times he has gotten beaten to a pulp and embarrassed. This causes him to run away in fear, forcing Snapper to explain that he is just taking a break to the audience. Seong watches all of this go down and wonders what he should spend his money on. As this happens, Hobin arrives in the bathroom where Seong is taking a piss in order to spray him with a hose. This enrages him, so he prepares to fight, but is stopped when he realizes what Hobin is doing. With Hobin covering the floor with water, he knows that if it won't rain for him, then he just needs to make it rain. Thanks to these precautions, he rushes him but gets slapped back unexpectedly. With this hit making him feel a bit dizzy, Hobin wonders what happened. Because it happened so fast, he wonders if he has a chance at winning. As all of this goes down, Snapper watches from afar, questioning what his plan is. As the battle goes on, Hobin eventually lands a kick to his calf, forcing him to the ground. This makes the audience realize that Hobin is wearing steel-toed rubber shoes, in order to not only stand easily on the floor, but also strengthen his kick. Despite his weird training of walking around in shoes within the pool, Hobin realizes it has all paid off. Hobin tells the audience that he will hold off for at least 3 minutes, it being the amount of time needed to insert ads into the stream. After setting the stage for his attack, he thought he would have a big chance at winning, but he soon realizes that pro fighters are on another level than what he is used to. Seong stares him down with intense eyes, then throws him to the side. He follows this by socking him in the face, or so he thinks. Hobin narrowly dodges the attack and wonders how Seong is moving so easily. With each of his attacks coming in like a bullet, he thinks he has no chance at winning. As he fights, he realizes how important one's footwork is, with Seong keeping his feet grounded. The comments wonder if he has any new tactics to fight with, knowing his low kick isn't going to do anything against someone like Seong. Because he is crammed in the bathroom, Hobin decides to stop running and throws in a low kick to his calf. Despite him now showing any emotion, it seems like this attack at least did some damage. On top of this, thanks to his training, Hobin is able to keep the fight going. As Snapper watches, he wishes Hobin would stop shouting out each of his attacks, knowing it's giving Seong the advantage. He then realizes that there must be a reason for why he shouts out the attacks. He assumes that eventually he will call out his calf kick and switch it up. As he suspected, Hobin does this, shouting out his calf kick but going for a tackle instead. Thanks to this attack, he remembers what the chicken man had taught him, informing him if he grabs their calf then he can flip them. After doing this move, Seong falls to the ground, making Snapper wonder if he did anything by talking to him. He then moves on to punching him in the face, causing the comment section watching to erupt with cheer. They think he will land a hit, but Hobin knows he only has one chance to end this fight. As he sends in the attack, he stops the punch and instead grabs his back collar, putting him into a lock. He then crosses his hand over thus, allowing him to choke Seong out. Because of his training by holding on the hanging rail, he is able to use enough force to restrain him for a moment. While he performs this move, however, Seong realizes that he forgot one of the most vital moves. With him not placing his legs over him, he ended up not successfully performing the move, causing Seong to strike back. He knocks him in the face and changes the tide of the battle, making Hobin wonder if his training was all for nothing. With his punch throwing Hobin back, he begins to realize he really doesn't have a chance at victory. Now, with Hobin on the ground, Snapper wonders what he will do next. Seong then reveals that he allowed him to tackle him, holding his water shoe up in the air. With this move taking away his own advantage of being on the wet surface, it seems like there is no way to defeat Xiong now. He then remembers the Chicken Man's advice telling him if he doesn't successfully perform this move, then his best choice is to run away. He realizes that this is the best option, but being as he is in a bathroom with his exit blocked, his escape seems impossible. As this happens, Moonsung watches from a cafe accompanied by the McDonald's girl Bomi. She decides to look away as he gets beat up, revealing she is mad at him. Since the day they split, he has stopped answering his calls. She refuses to check out the video until Moonsung informs him he threw him to the ground. Although this makes her happy, she soon realizes that he has no chance of winning. Because of this, Moonsung turns the video off, making her unknowing what's soon to happen. Hobin, on the other hand, turns into his pitiful mood, apologizing to Xiong for challenging him. He tries to end the fight, but Snapper reminds him of all the support he has gotten. These words fuel him to get back up, so he prepares his next move at fighting against Xiong. With both of them having one water shoe, he knows that his chances aren't completely ruined. If only he is able to force him onto his other shoe, then he thinks that he will have a chance. Despite these thoughts, Xiong gives him no time to think of what to do, striking him in the stomach. This makes him remember more of the Chicken Man's words, trying to think of what's next. Because he isn't experienced in fighting, he ends up throwing his body at him in a panic without knowing where to go. Because of these foolish actions, he gets thrown around like a punching bag, showing who the boss is. Xiong then attempts to finish the fight by striking his dominant foot, thus making sure he will have more limited movement. Snapper decides to watch this all go down, but not help at all, showing he really is worthless. As he wonders how to help, he eventually realizes it's too late. With Hobin being knocked out, Xiong decides to approach him, asking if he is alright. After finishing him off, he approaches Snapper and asks him to hand over the channel, wondering what kind of videos they'll make. Snapper refuses, causing Xiong to ask what he is talking about. Little does he know Hobin is back on his feet, ready to strike again. He knows his training wasn't in vain, wishing he could just exert his full power. He then remembers his most vital method, taking away his opponent's ability to strike. Because of this, he decides to get into the stall like he's going to take a dump. Snapper assumes he is crazy, but doesn't understand this is all of his plan. After seeing how much Snapper cares for their channel, he decides here and now it's not about the money, but keeping their name alive. Xiong immediately notices his tactics, but doesn't falter, asking him if he thinks this will help. Xiong does the opposite, however, swinging and throwing in a straight kick into the toilet. Surprisingly, Hobin jumps up to evade it, landing a kick on Xiong. This throws him to the ground, so he follows it by attempting the move he tried yet again. He throws him to the ground and makes Moonsung it's much different than last time. With this attack successfully choking him out, the fight takes another shift, this time onto the underdog side. Now, with the powerful fighter completely powerless, it reminds him of the first time he ever tasted defeat. With him being taken out with the same move, he knows that this is the end for him. Like the previous time, he attempts to tap out, but Hobin doesn't release his hold, only tightening it instead. Eventually, Snapper runs over and informs him he won, but the fight doesn't stop here. Hobin keeps his hold, knowing if he lets go, then there is a chance for Xiong to strike back during the confusion. He keeps the hold as long as he can until Xiong stops moving entirely. Despite this, the adrenaline for Hobin takes over, so he continues to choke him out, counting to 10. When the Chicken Man taught him, he always informed him to keep the count to 10 in order to ensure that his opponent is knocked out. Because of this, when he throws Xiong off, he stops moving entirely, thus deciding the victor of the battle. As he is lying on the ground, Xiong remembers his past when he was taken out by another fighter. With the fighter offering him a hand up last time, he realizes just how bad he has been. When he wakes up, he finds the two spreading his legs, making him question their sanity. Hobin quickly explains himself, but this only angers Xiong, having him strangle Hobin. After he looks at him, he soon realizes what his objective was, handing him back a watch. Hobin asks him if this is important to him, to which it seems to be. He takes the watch and walks out, telling Hobin if he sees him again, then there will be some real pain. Thanks to these actions, they lucked out in exiting the fight without getting another beating. Snapper then notices his glistening skin, so he asks him how he looks so good despite sweating. Hobin pulls out a body spray and starts using it, promoting this brand in the process. People begin to realize the use of this, all the while Hobin ends up securing a brand deal. With all of this done, he ends the live stream, causing Guile to get to work. She begins editing the fight up that night, taking out various parts and adding in ads. On top of this, she adds subtitles all the while, showing her interest in the fight. After just a single day, Hobin ends up getting 3 million views on the video and almost 200,000 subscribers. The next day, he walks around school like a boss, not knowing the trouble that is soon to come from uploading the video. After he rocked Xiong in a fight, the video begins spreading around town like crazy. Bomi decides to watch one of the clips during her shift at work until a big buff man emerges before her asking for 30 Big Macs. She thinks he is crazy at first, but he gets even more crazy, demanding her for her number. On his way out, he drops half of his burgers, making Bomi wonder what his deal is. She knows that when she last saw him, she abandoned him and went along with Moonsung, making her feel as if she has no right to talk with him anymore. Meanwhile, Hobin thinks back on his bet against Xiong and how he risked his YouTube channel. By overpowering his shamelessness and pride, he ended up reaching victory, making it Xiong's second time ever experiencing defeat. With this being a time that he will never forget to make it worse, he even tried tapping out, showing how fearful he really became. He thought it would be over here, but Hobin didn't stop, choking him out until he knew he was safe and had nothing to worry about. No matter how loud Snapper screamed for him to finish it, he never let go, making sure to choke him out all the way until 10 seconds. Now in the present, Guile edits the clips up perfectly to make it more interesting for a viewer. After these events, a merchant is seen talking with another about how he can't sell his cows. The man working at this shop happens to be Mangi, the very man who keeps on hitting on Bomi with hopes of getting her number. He then notices Hobin choking out Xiong, so he thinks if he were to defeat him, then he would have a much better chance at gaining some subscribers. Snapper, on the other hand, is seen telling Hobin he should go pro already for how good he is getting. He reveals that after the single kick by Xiong, he had to be hospitalized, making Hobin wonder about his own health. He knows he is probably injured but doesn't care, rather caring for how Xiong feels. He remembers presenting him with the watch from before and seeing his vulnerable side, causing him to care for him. Snapper questions how he could care for him in the first place, telling him he has gotten big since his event. Apparently someone clipped him lying in the water and thought he was super hot, so he already has a fan club. After hearing his, Hobin tells him he is complete trash, knowing he doesn't compare to him in terms of looks. Meanwhile, Gowl completes her list of things to do until she is teased by some girls. With her jumping around like an old man, they make sure to clip it and make fun of her. While this happens, she tries to take their phones back, but they inform her that they will delete it when they want. He then records himself pushing her to the ground, causing them to think Hobin might show up if they continue to hurt her. They fantasize about him emerging before them, not knowing Guile has some fighting techniques of her own. She strikes the man, but he uses Hobin's technique, moving into the hit to take no damage whatsoever. The other girls then pick her up and tell her she seriously needs to grow up and stop acting so childish. As this happens, Snapper enters the room asking them if they are the ones bullying Guile. After a single hit, he gets knocked to the ground, making him completely useless. Although he wanted to use him to protect her, he only fueled their situation. Right before the man sends in another strike, Hobin emerges before him and blocks the attack. Despite being seen, he isn't scared at all, causing Hobin to realize he has the advantage in this situation. He asks them why they are attacking his friends, to which the underclassman asks him to fight with him. They think that his fight against Xiong was all staged, not knowing how much he had to go through to win. Hobin knows, however, that they don't stand a chance against him, so he demands 100 yen in order to get beat up. This only causes them to laugh even more, so Hobin snaps, deciding it's time he shows them a lesson. When one of the underclassmen goes in for a strike, he hesitates after seeing Moonsung standing before them. After this is all done, they get off the hook pretty easily, allowing Snapper and Girl to breathe another day. As they talk, Snapper asks her what the underclassmen even do for their channel. Apparently they are a bit popular for picking on random people, despite it being some random content. Snapper then decides to step up and tell Hobin he should be quicker to stand up for his friends, asking him why he didn't strike the underclassmen faster. Hobin explains that he did, but he was too busy dealing with his own fear. After hearing this, Guile notices that even someone like Hobin gets scared in certain situations, despite him seeming like such a beast. That night, when Hobin goes to sleep, he talks with Moonsung, who informs him that he wants to be friends. For some reason, Hobin acts like a massive fan to him, until he tells him that he needs to call Bomi. He claims that she doesn't deserve to be ghosted, not understanding how Hobin truly feels. With him doing the lowest of the lows in front of her, he thinks he has no chance at winning her over. As this happens, Guile strokes herself at the thought of Hobin standing up for her. With her going above and beyond to show her liking to him, she ends up texting him that night just because she feels good. Meanwhile, Bomi continues working at the McDonald's until she is approached by the fat guy once again hitting on her. With him staring at her day in and day out, she wonders if he will be waiting for her after work. The next guest then emerges before her and orders a strawberry parfait only to make small talk. She ends up slamming his food on the table and walking away, showing she is mad at him. He feels bad for ghosting her for the past 2 months, so he decides to talk it out with her. Despite this, she ignores him, so he walks to the back where she notices his efforts. With Hobin writing everything he needed to say on his arm, she notices it and calls him out. This forces her to laugh, telling the next customer to come to the counter despite there not being anyone. He ignores these advances and tells her he saw her smile through her cute dimples. He continues to talk with her, spamming her with questions until she asks about his editor. Although she is smiling, she is still looking scary, so Hobin decides to tell her everything about his editor. After saying all of this, she asks if his editor is cute, only for her to emerge before them right on time. She asks Hobin if she is cute, causing him to tell her that she sure is cute. He then asks how she found him, having told her he was going to get something to eat. She then strikes him for some reason to flirt with him, making Bomi realize she has some real competition. Guile then presents Bomi with a McDonald's care package, telling her Hobin can't stop talking about her. She tells Bomi that she knows he sucks at apologizing, so she came here to help him out. After she says all of this, he blushes like a girl, showing a vulnerable side to Bomi. She tells him to text him, so he shouts it out, making the entire situation a bit weird. He claims that he will span her with texts, so Guile leaves, claiming she doesn't want to get in between their flirting. As she walks out, she tells Hobin not to get embarrassed anymore, reminding him he is a bit famous nowadays. While she exits, Bomi notices she is definitely hiding something from them. Guile, on the contrary, eventually has her feelings caught up to her when she realizes what Hobin said to her. With him calling her cute, she hid it in the moment, but now that she remembers this, she is excited. Bomi, on the other hand, walks around town until she is stopped by a man telling her she has something in her bag. She ends up getting fooled by the comedy crew, the group of underclassmen thugs. With them doing a pedestrian prank, they ask her if they can use her clip for their channel. Before she even responds, they thank her, but then suddenly a car comes driving by right in